My name is William,
And my name is Casper.
And my name is Tor.
and in this video, we're going to analyze a speech written by Michelle Obama presented before the students at the DC High School at an educational event. And to start things off, we'd like to give a short summary of the text or of the speech. And she starts off with a casual good morning, thanking the people who made it possible for her to be here at the event today. And as she gradually moves on from the introduction, she begins to speak to the students about education and the school system. And she also wants and likes to emphasize that Obama has gone to great lengths to make college more affordable for everyone. She then begins to talk about her own struggle and her own unprivileged family. And yeah, now we're going to move on to the part of the video where we're going to analyze the speech.
And now we're going to analyze the rhetorical situation. And in the speech, we hear Mrs. Obama talk about responsibility for herself, that every person should do good for oneself and fight for a good education, so you can live the life you want to when you grow up. And the center of this speech is Mrs. Obama herself. She has written the speech herself and only her. There are no other to have influence in the speech. She says what she wants to say. And the receivers of this speech is DC High School. They all want to believe in the speech, but a lot of them have different backgrounds and opinions. And there are a lot of students, and each of them are different from each other, and therefore a lot of opinions. Some of them have the same opinion, and some other have a whole other opinion. You can say they already know about it, but on the other side, they maybe don't, or they don't will because they have another opinion. The speech took place on DC High School in front of a lot of young students. Of what we know, the speech was a one-way communication. You could imagine that there were time for questions afterwards the speech, which this speech, Mrs. Obama trying to motivate these young students and convince them that everything is possible if you want it enough and do whatever it takes. Even if their family don't have a lot of money, they can still have a good education and a good life. Mrs. Obama tells how she became very successful and got a good education, even when she came from a poor family. This is an example of how you can make a good life if you fight for it. Because of her authority as a first lady, she is a very trustworthy, and therefore she can have an impact on the students from DC High School. And again, this speech took place when DC High School had an education event. Therefore, Mrs. Obama came to inspire these young students, and some of the students could have been influenced by Mrs. Obama's speech and got some motivation to do extra good in school.
Then we move on to the rhetorical purpose. Mrs. Obama used information and persuasion in her speech. It's a good combination in this speech because it goes out to a lot of young students, and she wants to give them information about Obama's plan for the future. But at the same time, she wants to give the students dream for the future through her own life experience. She informs the students about the goals her husband, President Barack Obama, has for the future students and their education. The goals is for USA to have the highest proportion of college graduates in the world. Mrs. Obama mostly used persuasion to persuade the students about going to college. She talks about her own education and her life too.
Now we will move on to the rhetorical modes and devices. In this speech, Mrs. Obama mostly uses two forms of appeal. The moment she walks on stage, she appeals to the receivers of the message she's about to deliver with ethos. And this is self-explanatory because of the level of power she possesses as the First Lady of the United States. And of course, with the credibility that her husband has. And pathos is also present in the speech as she appeals to the emotions of the receiver several times in the speech, and it can be seen in the following excerpt. And I quote, "And then, get this, some of my teachers straight up told me that I was setting my sights too high. They told me I was never going to get into a school like Princeton. I still hear that doubt ringing in my head. So it was clear to me that nobody was going to take my hand and lead me to where I needed to go." And in this part of the speech, it's clear that she appeals to the feelings by telling part of her own story and how she suffered and how no one believed in her. And the main feeling of this excerpt is empathy and the feeling of being able to relate to the problem in question. And pathos is without a doubt dominating throughout the speech, which sets the mood and makes the crowd and the atmosphere hopeful and joyous.
And now we move on to the arguments. She uses rhetorical tools in the speech as well. For example, she uses direct address a lot, which creates a bond between sender and receiver. And then she says, that means whatever it's a
Vocational.
vocational program, community college, or 4-year university, you are all going to need some form of higher education in order to build the kind of lives that you want for yourself, good careers, to be able to provide for your family. And here she makes the students think about the future, and this makes them rethink previous thoughts of college.
And now we will put the text into perspective. To sum it all up on the world, say that Mrs. Obama's speech is a beautiful gesture that depicts the person she has become in spite of unfortunate childhood conditions. And this speech can be compared to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. It's about reaching out for someone who is regarded a lesser citizen because of reason. These individuals cannot change. Both speeches display hope and bright perspectives for the future.